Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Noorain's Online Islamic Institute. This is the Tafseer series. We will be discussing the Tafseer of Surah 109, which is Surah Al-Kafiroon. This surah is named after the Disbelievers. Inshallah, we will begin with reciting the surah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. So these 6 ayahs of Surah Al-Kafiroon were revealed after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came down with the message to the people of Mecca, and he was talking to the people of Quraysh, and he told them, please accept Islam, accept the message. And he told them that the idols that they are worshipping, they are not the true God. They can't help them at all, and they need to stop worshipping them. But what did the people do? The Quraysh said that, how dare you? How dare you say this about our idols? How dare you say that they are not the truth? People have been worshipping them for years and years and years, and how can you come and say this to us? But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent from Allah. It doesn't matter if everybody else did it or if people before did it. What is wrong is still wrong. And they weren't willing to understand this. And so they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they told him, let's make a deal, okay? Because they noticed that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not willing to give up the message. He said, even if you offer the sun to me in my one hand and the moon in the other, meaning if he had all the wealth and everything on this earth, he would not give up the message of Islam. So the Quraysh said, okay, so let's make a deal. Maybe we'll worship your God for a year, and then you can worship our gods for a year. So they said, we'll worship Allah for a year, we'll be Muslim for a year, and then you have to worship our idols for a year. They were not willing to give up their shirk, their worship of the idols. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, did not agree to this. Right? Islam or Iman, you don't turn it on and off. And you can't worship idols and then worship Islam at the same time, and worship Allah at the same time. Those are two very different things. And of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala denied that request completely. You worship only Allah. You don't switch on and off your Iman. And so this surah was revealed as a response to them. They kept on arguing about Islam. They weren't willing to agree to the oneness of Allah. So then Allah revealed this surah. So the surah starts, the first ayah is قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. It says, say, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. So Allah is telling us how to respond to the disbelievers. Those disbelievers who try to compromise and try to mix up the faith and try to get you to accept a little bit of their faith and say, okay, we'll help you if you help us worship these idols. We'll worship Allah if you worship our idols. They try to mix it up. Or they're not willing to give up their shirk. They're not willing to give up their worship of the idols. So when they said this to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah told him how to respond. That's why the surah starts with قُل, say to them. Ya ayyuhal kafirun, O you disbelievers, people who do not believe in Allah. La a'budu ma ta'budun. What do we say to them? I do not worship what you worship. So clear, simple. listen, I worship only Allah and I do not worship what you worship. And then to make it even more clear, وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ, nor are you worshippers of what I worship. They're trying to pretend to worship Allah for 1 year and let's not worship him for another year. So Rasulullah, Allah is telling him to be very clear. Listen, I don't worship what you worship. You worship idols and those are completely different. I only worship Allah. And you right now are not worshipping Allah. You know, one of the arguments that they used to say when they used to worship these idols, they used to say, yeah, but these idols, we're still worshipping Allah. We're still worshipping the same. We're just talking to these idols. We're just going through these idols for different things. And Rasulullah and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to say that that's not right. You're not worshipping Allah alone. So make it very clear that what you are doing is not the true worship of Allah. So we say, وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. You are not worshippers of what I worship. وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدتُّمْ. And even with more firmness now, I will not be a worshipper of what you worship. What does that mean? We will not worship the idols. You're calling us to worship the idols? We will not do that. Very clear. We are not going to worship. We are not going to do sajda. We're not going to make dua to anybody other than Allah. And then it's repeated again. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. And you are not going to be worshippers of what I worship. You are worshipping your idols and you have chosen that way and you think that you are worshipping Allah, but you're actually not. That's not the way to worship Allah. So it's made clear that you're not going to be worshippers of what I worship. It's not going to work, this 1 year and 1 year thing. You have to either be completely Muslim. And then the last ayah here. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. For you is your religion, and for me is my religion. So this was the response that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to give to people who try to mix it up, who try to say, yeah, you can be Muslim and do a little bit of this. You can be Muslim and worship a little bit of this and do this and do that. We make it very clear. Listen, you don't do what I do. You don't worship Allah. I worship Allah. And Allah has told me to do this. And what you are doing is not the worship of Allah. So don't pretend like it is. And this is why when we recite this surah, it makes us more firm. Especially when you're surrounded by shirk. When you're surrounded by people doing other things. And surrounded by all of those negative comments. This is a surah that really helps. It helps you stay firm. So what is the main theme that this surah revolves around? It actually breaks down to something very, very simple. And that is Tawheed. It starts with Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. So the Quraysh, they used to say that they are worshipping Allah, but they didn't worship one Allah. They worshipped all these multiple gods who they said was representing Allah. But that's not true. We call upon directly to Allah. There's no idols in between. There's no person in between. So it's pure Tawheed and the oneness of Allah. The disbelievers have believed that there is one Allah, but He is part of something, and there's actually 2 or 3, and there's different gods for different things. But we believe in only one. So they might say, hey, but it's the same thing. You can do what I do. I can do what you do. But in this surah, it's made very clear, no. What we do is different. What we worship Allah as one and alone. That is completely different. So we are cleansing ourselves from the shirk. We are cleansing ourselves from worshipping anything other than Allah. And we are saying, hey, no, we're not going to worship anything else. So don't pretend like it's the same thing, because it's not. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah is pure and unique to Muslims. And so anybody who does shirk cannot be equal to the Muslim. It's not the same thing. And so this surah makes it clear. We don't worship what you worship. You don't worship what I worship. You can't make it the same. You can't switch. One day I do this, one day I do that. I'm going to stay firm to my tawheed. And you can decide if you want to stay firm on your shirk. Your way is your way and my way is my way. Don't mix up the ways. There are two different paths. I hope, inshallah, you learned something from today's lesson. Jazakallahu khair for listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe.